Let's talk about one of the toughest parts of being a parent. Those moments, or maybe even seasons, when your child's behavior feels like a constant struggle. We're going to dive deep into that today. But this isn't about blame, not at all. It's about finding some real understanding and hopefully a clear path forward.
Does this feel a little too real? The constant arguments, the meltdowns that come out of nowhere, that defiance that just leaves you feeling completely wiped out by the end of the day? It can really feel like you're fighting a battle every single day. And if you feel that way, you are so not alone. That exact feeling is what we're here to talk about.
So here's how we're going to get from that feeling of chaos to a place of clarity. First, we'll define what that daily battle really looks like. Then we'll talk about a huge shift in thinking, seeing behavior as a signal. We'll go over a simple checklist for when it might be time to get help, walk through what that process actually looks like, and then we'll focus on the end goal, rebuilding peace in your family.
All right, first up, what are we actually talking about when we use a term like behavioral issues? This is way more than just a bad day or your typical toddler tantrum. Let's get a much clearer picture of what this really means.
You see that word right there, pattern? That is the absolute key. We're not talking about a one-off bad day. We're talking about a persistent cycle, a loop of defiance, arguments, or impulsiveness that just throws the whole family off balance. It's a pattern that disrupts everything and leaves everyone feeling totally drained.
And here's where things start to make a bit more sense. These behaviors, they almost never happen in a vacuum. I mean, think about it. A kid who's feeling super anxious might act out because they're just completely overwhelmed. Or a child with sensory issues might be having a massive tantrum because to them, the room is just too loud, too bright. It actually feels painful. It really shows you just how complex this is and why just saying, "Stop that," almost never works.
And that leads us right into what I think is the most important part of our whole conversation today. This is the big idea, the huge shift in perspective that can honestly change everything. It's about moving from seeing a problem kid to seeing a signal.
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. Our gut reaction, so often, is to jump to those labels on the left, right? Naughty, defiant, he's just being a bad kid. But the real breakthrough happens when we force ourselves to look at the column on the right. What if it's not defiance? What if it's a signal that they're frustrated, that they have a need that isn't being met, or that they're dealing with some really big emotions they just don't know how to handle?
This quote just nails it. These behaviors are not about bad parenting or naughty kids. They're signals. This is your permission slip to let go of all that guilt and all that blame. It's time to stop being a judge and start being a detective. You're just looking for the clues your child is sending you.
Okay, so how do you know? How do you know when it's time to maybe bring in a professional, someone who can help you decode all those signals? Let's make it practical. Here's a checklist that can help you figure that out.
Just take a look at this list. If you're seeing intense tantrums way past the toddler years, if there's a constant refusal to follow instructions, not just at home but at school too, if impulse control is a huge struggle, or honestly, if the whole situation is just causing constant ongoing stress for everyone in the family, it might be time to get some support. You really don't have to just wait and hope they grow out of it.
Right, but here's the question I'm sure is on your mind. Isn't some of this just normal? I mean, kids are supposed to push boundaries, right? So where exactly is the line between typical kid stuff and something more?
And the answer is yes. Of course, some defiance is totally normal, but it all comes down to degree. Think about these three words: intensity, frequency, and disruption. When the behavior is really intense, when it's happening all the time, and when it's actively disrupting school, friendships, and your life at home, that's the line. That's when it shifts from a phase to a pattern that's worth looking into.
Okay, so let's say you've decided to get some help. What does that actually look like? The word assessment can sound a little intimidating, but it's really not. It's just a clear, structured way to get some real answers and, most importantly, a plan.
The whole thing is actually a team effort. It starts with a detailed interview with you, because hey, you're the world's leading expert on your child. Then, specialists will observe your child and do some screenings, usually in a comfortable, play-based way. Step 3 is super important. They'll rule out other potential causes, like the ones we mentioned earlier, just to make sure the whole picture is clear. And only then, with all that information, do they create a strategy plan that is completely tailored to your child. The last step is coaching for you, the family, and even the school, so everyone is on the same page, working together.
See, this whole process, it's not about getting a diagnosis or a label.
It's about finding a solution. It's about finally being able to move from that state of constant conflict to a place of connection and, well, peace.
And that really is the ultimate goal. Getting help isn't about fixing a problem. It's about finding a translator, someone who can help you decode the messages that your child is sending you with their behavior. It's all about understanding, not punishment.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. The next time you're in one of those really tough moments, just take a breath and ask yourself this. Instead of seeing defiance, try to see the signal. Instead of seeing a problem, try to hear the message. What is your child really, truly trying to tell you?